one and all, I'm Alexis, aka The Sloth Reader, and I'm here today to do a video all about the books that are special to me. I had hinted that I was going to be doing this video when I had filmed my reading story video, which I will link to down below in case you guys haven't seen it, which these are just books that for one reason or another are very special to me, and so yeah, so I'll go ahead and get into them. Definitely these are books that I'm sure you've heard about on my channel before because as they are very special to me, I enjoy recommending them. But some of these I don't think I've talked very much about on my channel. Going ahead and starting out with the first one is going to be the Land of Elyon series by Patrick Carman. You guys have heard about this book by now from me. This was the book series that got me into reading when I was very young. This was the first story I had ever fallen in love with. This story made me want to continue reading. This follows our main character, Alexa Daly, who is 12 years old, and basically she discovers that her life and her world are not as she had always been led to believe, and so she goes on this quest to basically save her land from an evil. I love the series. It means so much to me because it basically launched me into where I am today. So yes, this series. The next one I'm going to mention is one that I feel like I do recommend quite a bit, and that is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. So a little background on this. I read this book for summer reading when I was transitioning from 9th to 10th grade, so the summer before my 10th grade year, and I read this book the summer after my grandfather had passed away. He had passed away in March of that same year. And I was very, very close with my grandfather. He was a very prominent father figure in my life. And so I had lost him, and then I read this book that summer. And this book deals a lot with loss and death, and I think in a very beautiful way. But also the father figure in this book, Hans Huberman, reminds me so much of my grandfather, and the relationship that he has with Liesel, the main character, and the guiding hand that he presents to her just reminded me so much of my grandfather. And so reading this book felt like such a connection to him, obviously in me being in a grieving period, in a time in which I craved every connection I could have. And so yeah, this book is very special to me because I think it helped me get through a lot of the immediate grief I was feeling with at the time. So yes, so this book is very, 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 very personal to me in that way. I also just think it's a really beautiful story. Of course, like I said, that deals with death and grief, but I think it does it in a really beautiful way. The next two books I'm going to mention are special to me for kind of the same reason, and it's a much lighter, I think, topic. The first one I'm going to mention is a series, and it is the Morganville Vampire series by Rachel Kane. And this series is really special to me because me and one of my very, very best friends in the entire world, my friend Erica, we actually became friends because of the fact that we were both reading vampire books at the same time in that 2008-2009 period. And my friend Erica actually sat behind me in my freshman year biology course. And I can't remember who said something to who, but one of us was reading the first book in the Morganville Vampire series, and then I think it was me, and then Erica was like, hey, is that book good? Or it was vice versa, and she was reading and I leaned back and was like, hey, is that good? And basically we just recommended the series to each other, and then as the books in the series proceeded to come out, we just bought them and read them, and we gushed over them and how much we loved them. So yeah, so like Morganville Vampires brought me one of my very, very, very best friends in the entire world, and like Erica and I bond over books now because we're both very avid readers, but like that's the one that started it all, so props to it. And the next one I'm going to mention is one, like I said, for the same reason, and that is Flat Out Love by Jessica Park, which is a book I very much love and I don't think I recommend enough on my channel. But this series actually is a reason that me and one of my other very, very good friends, Ashley, actually became friends. So Ashley and I bonded over books again, but she had recommended this book to me because it was a book that she absolutely loved. And I remember her like showing me the cover of the book and being like, the cover looks cheesy, but it makes a lot more sense if you read the book. And I remember reading the book and being like, oh, I love it so much, it's so good, it's so good. And like, so yeah, I mean, like her and I bonded over sharing books with each other and talking about really cheesy, cheap Kindle books that we could get. But this is the one I feel like is such a special book between the two of us because of how much we loved it and the fact that, you know, she shared it with me and that kind of thing. So yes, Flat Out Love, basically I owe my friendship with Ashley to it. So the next two books I'm going to mention are two books I'm going to mention that are kind of mental health related, with my own experiences and how I feel like I was represented in these books. So the first one I'm going to mention is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And I don't feel like I've talked about this book on my channel for a couple of years, but I love this book so much. And that's because I literally can't express how much this book mirrors my freshman year of college. The only difference is that Kath had a sister who drank a lot, and I don't have a sister. And Kath got a really cute barista boyfriend, and I didn't. Everything else, though, was pretty much the same. Seriously. Like, I suffered very heavily with mental illness my first couple of years of college, especially those first 2 semesters. And seeing Kath be so anxious that she doesn't leave her apartment and she doesn't want to leave her dorm room, like, I just so identified with that. And I was like, me. That was me. My freshman year. I mean, like, down to the stupid amounts of writing fan fiction my freshman year of college. I did that too. Yeah, it's just like this book. I think this was the first time I'd really so accurately seen myself in a fictional character, and I was like, holy wow, that was me. Rainbow Rowell, did you write this book about me? Because it's scarily accurate. The next book I'm going to mention is a book I am very, very personal about, and it's very, very special to me, and that is Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series. Caveat, I've talked a lot about how as the series progressed, I haven't quite loved it as much as I love this particular book, but this particular book and the series will always be very, very special to me. I actually have a tattoo inspired by this book that I'll find a picture of and post, because I literally, like, knew reading this book that I wanted to have it on me for the rest of my life because of how much this book means to me. And honestly, the main reason is, without spoilers, the main character, Selena, in this book goes through a lot of very emotional stuff. She deals a lot with her past, and she deals a lot with some of the things that she's been through. And for me, as someone who has had a very, very low point in their life with being very, very much depressed, I saw my depression in Selena. Like, when I was reading this book, I was like, wow, Selena's massively depressed. And, like, it was so obvious to me, and I saw so much of my own symptoms and my own struggles and my own suffering in how Sarah J. Maas writes Selena's mental state in this particular book. It was something I felt so connected to, and watching over the course of this book, watching Selena overcome her struggles and watching her deal with the mental state her mind was in by dealing with the things in her past, I was so inspiring to me, and I just connected with it so much because I saw a character who, for me, as someone with depression, was depressed. Like, I saw my depression in Selena, and watching her overcome that was just so inspiring to me, especially when I read this at the age of 19, 20, I'm not sure how old I was, but it was just something I so completely identified with, and I connected with on such an emotional level. So this book is so supremely special to me for that reason. And even if this series isn't something I'm overly in love with, this book will always be something that I love completely. The next one I'm going to mention is one I don't think I've ever talked on my channel about before, which is really interesting because it's actually a series / book that I really, really love, and that is actually the Maze Runner / the Maze Runner series by James Dashner. I actually love these books, and I don't talk about them, like, at all pretty much, but I love this series. But the reason I want to mention these is because, and I didn't notice this until I was doing a little bit of research, but this was actually the first book series I had picked up post my reading drought that I had when I was in my early college years, when I wasn't reading, when I was very much in my depressive state, which I was in for like 2 years. I didn't read anything, and evidently the Maze Runner series was the first series I picked up coming out of that. I think it was because I had seen the trailer for the movie maybe, and the movie was interesting, and I was like, hey, I really want to check out the books, and so I did. And I loved them, and they totally captured my attention, and yeah, I just really, really love the series. Apparently this series was like my lifeline, evidently the like bridge between my like depression and like my weaning my way out of depression. So interestingly enough, Maze Runner. Who would have known? I didn't even know that until I had looked it up on Goodreads, but evidently it's true. Alright guys, so that was, like I said, my books that are special to me. I have a lot of books that I feel like on some level are special to me because of how much I love them, but these are ones that do have a deeply personal connection to me, and like, if you didn't like these books, that's totally fine. Like, I'm not going to be offended. But yeah, I would love to know if you guys have any books that are very personal to you in that way. So if you have any of those books, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys soon with another video.